Welcome to 60 Skills. And today we are going to have a reading from Initial Experiences with the Kabbalah by Rordan, Phobos, and Bob Smith. In this case, from the Practice Advice section, chapter 29. Fascia training. Ultimately, the strength and integration of the fascia tissue in a practitioner's body determines how strongly they can push the force of a letter into the physical world. If a practitioner is only interested in working at the astral level or higher, working with the fascia is unnecessary. The most potent practitioners tend to be physical forces of nature that are either giants or lithe people with amazing body mechanics. Few serious practitioners exist beyond this paradigm. Training the fascia tissue in the body is a science that fills books. The easiest way to do this is to train Jibun Gong from traditional Chinese martial arts using the electric and magnetic currents. For reference, I have only seen the Chinese train the electric current when doing this. I also suspect this is a primary cause of the manic behavior often seen in martial practitioners. If you lack access to someone capable of teaching this, and most do even in Asia, an alternative exists. Take up the practice of Olympic weightlifting. Pursued 2 to 3 times per week for 2 to 3 years will result in refined, well-developed, and integrated fascia tissue. Running the electric and magnetic currents through the tissue while performing the exercises will aid this. At a minimum, you will be 2 to 3 times stronger than you are now, and the improvements in your body mechanics will pay benefits for the rest of your life. For the record, being stronger is always better than being weak. The improvements in your way of looking at the world as a strong person will hone your will and make your life better. Timelines for training. Training with the letters becomes quickly time-consuming. My teacher recommended training with a single letter for 2 hours per day, 1 hour seated and 1 hour standing for a year before switching to another letter to maximize your ability with it. Completing the whole series takes 27 years this way. On a practical basis, I have found that consistently accessing the power of a given letter takes approximately 100 hours of training. Maintaining your level of strength takes about 1/10 of the weekly practice time used to develop your base. So, if you practice 10 hours a week for 10 weeks, you can maintain that level of strength from an hour's practice per week. Standing or sitting for less than 15 minutes with a given letter does not do much. Many of my teachers explained theories about the amount of time it takes fascia tissue to mold into a given position, etc. Regardless for the reason of this, less than 15 minutes of working on a letter at a time achieves little. For those wishing to set things on fire, using the letter SCH for example, turn water into ice and float objects in the air, I have been told that development of this level of ability takes 4 hours of letter practice a day for approximately 10 years. If pursuing this, a practitioner will need to practice a fire, air, water, and earth element letter every day for an hour each. I personally have not done this, and I know no one who can. It is a data point for those interested. Finally, this brings up the topic of elemental balance. Working with the letters for long periods of time can result in elemental imbalances. These affect the behavior and health of a practitioner long term, if not taken into consideration. Going to extremes can be dangerous and potentially life-threatening. Technically speaking, all elements should be practiced for an equal period of time daily. At their apex, an imbalance in an element can cause the following problems. Air. The energy of the lungs rises and you cannot breathe. In theory, this could kill you. Water. The water processing of the lung malfunctions and you cannot breathe. Sometimes it looks like an asthma attack. In theory, this can kill you. Fire. Mania, psychosis, and overpressure in the head. In theory, you could be killed if you harm someone else, or you might suffer an aneurysm. Earth. Paralysis and an inability to breathe. Again, in theory, this can kill you. If you run into this problem, immediately generate akasha, clear the letter from your body, and begin generating an opposing energy, i.e. earth and air, or fire and water. Practically speaking, this can be a problem. A slightly less effective but workable solution is to practice the air and earth letters on one day, and the fire and water letters on the next. I have personally found that for a few months at a time, 2 hours a day of practice with a single letter and an hour of practice split between the other 3 is in fact manageable. I do feel slightly out of sorts by the end of that period though. but I can get my 100 hours in within 2 months per letter that way. Once I reach the 100-hour point, it allows me to utilize the letter in multi-letter combinations. So this is a worthwhile trade for the most part. But you are still looking at 3 hours a day of work. If you go down to a single letter per day with your primary letter, you now require a little over 3 months per letter for a total of roughly 7 to 8 years to get through the whole series. Letter and organ combinations. Placing the letters into the organs is designed to create a lattice for the letters to work from. Unfortunately, some of the classical associations are wrong, and this makes the lattice unstable. Specifically, do not place the letter K in your ear, and the spleen does not work with the letter L. Some schools claim karma can be removed from another person via their spine using akasha or the letter E. But this appears to cause health problems in the practitioner that does this too often. The associations for the mother letters SCH, A, M, A umlaut, and E appear to be correct. Beyond this, a more talented practitioner will need to make the appropriate determinations. So again, this is a short reading from Rordan, Phobos, and Bob Smith's initial experiences with the Kabbalah. If you would like to learn more about this, check out the 60Skills website, look into the weekly initiations offered via Eventbrite, and otherwise, train hard and be well.